Yeah, I still think that we will get a continuation of the bull market.
How could the cycle be over, right? We're like 2 months after the halving, the election is a few months away. There's a lot of positives in the space.
A million Bitcoin by 2030, and that's still relatively conservative, I guess. And I expect at least prices above 140K this cycle.
Rational Root begins by discussing his outlook on the continuation of the Bitcoin bull market. While he remains optimistic, he emphasizes the importance of taking things day by day and not getting too caught up in long-term predictions. He acknowledges making bold calls in the past, like predicting Bitcoin reaching $200,000, but now prefers a more conservative approach. He references various models, such as the Power Law model predicting a $1 million Bitcoin by 2030, which he considers relatively conservative. Although he respects these models, Rational Root believes that Bitcoin will eventually reach such heights without relying on any specific model. Matthew Sigel also talks about the impact of realized losses by short-term holders and low Bitcoin volatility, which recently hit 21 on a 30-day annualized basis. He finds this unsustainable and predicts that the upcoming quadruple witching could be a catalyst for change. He sold some equities and bought Bitcoin, believing the risk-reward ratio looks favorable. He remains confident that the Bitcoin cycle is not over, despite the recent halving and upcoming elections. Matthew Sigel expects a substantial rally, noting that it doesn't take much capital to move the price significantly due to Bitcoin's relatively low liquidity compared to other assets. Please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. You can also check out our other videos on cryptocurrencies and the overall digital asset space and drop your comments and observations in the comments section below. Everything you do helps with the YouTube algorithm and immensely contributes to the channel's growth. Thanks and enjoy the video.
Yeah, I still think that we will get a continuation of the bull market, but I also like to take it as it comes. Like I've made some calls before around like, okay, we could get to 200K Bitcoin, but I prefer to stay conservative and look at it from a day-to-day basis. I think that's also mostly the strength of on-chain. So, there's, again, these models are getting popular. I don't know if you've seen the Power Law model, for example, like a million Bitcoin by 2030, and that's still relatively conservative, I guess. There's the stock-to-flow model, which is a lot more optimistic. I'm not such a fan of. I mean, I have nothing against the Power Law model. I think it's a great model, by the way. It really does well on this historic data, and it's a rather conservative estimate of where Bitcoin is going. But personally, I don't really need those models. I believe Bitcoin is going to go eventually to $1 million as well without the model. And so, I rather look at it on a day-to-day basis with on-chain analysis and see where we're at in the cycle. Are we close to peak? Yes or no? And how much further can we go in this cycle? And I think so. I still think we're going to see a continuation, and I expect at least prices above 140K this cycle. But yeah, we'll see. We can still get higher, but we can also have something ruin it, right? We could get a recession. The macro landscape doesn't look that great, and so we still need to be careful. That could actually ruin the 4-year cycle even, because I do think there's a relatively high correlation with the stock market. And so if the stock market would crash suddenly because of recessionary environments, I think Bitcoin will go along with it. Although I still remain optimistic because Bitcoin is a hedge, right? Like I think we would bottom early, but yeah, it's hard to think about these scenarios. We don't really know what's coming. People have been expecting a recession for a long time, and it hasn't come. And in the meantime, stock market is an all-time high, and so I have no reason to be pessimistic at this point. And actually, if we look at the spiral chart, so in the next 6 months, we'll reach the top of that chart again. So yeah, we should get at least above prices of 70K. Otherwise, the lines will cross, which maybe is a possibility as well, right? Like if we have diminishing returns over time, I mean, the lines of the spiral chart could cross. I've actually said this years back already, like that is a possibility.
Yeah. So just to set the stage on what the price action is, we have an ETF that owns Bitcoin miners. It's up 21% this month, right? That's versus BTC down 9%. ETH down 11, and Solana down 17. And what's basically happening is that there's a clear supply and demand imbalance for the access to power and high density data center infrastructure that these AI workloads need. And the Bitcoin miners sit at that intersection. And they are fielding calls from everyone from Microsoft, Amazon. Obviously, we've seen CoreWeave strike that big deal with Core Scientific and try to buy the company. And down the line, realized losses by short-term holders, for example, over 500 million. Like that's a top 5 print of all time for Bitcoin. Wow. And then I saw BTC volatility hit 21. That's a 30-day annualized vol. That is also a very low number. It was lower than Apple stock, lower than Meta stock. I don't think that's sustainable, and the quadruple witching might be the catalyst. So I did sell some equities and bought BTC on Tuesday. I think the risk reward looks good. It's a 17% drawdown. As long as the cycle's not over, then that's going to look really attractive in hindsight. And how could the cycle be over, right? We're like 2 months after the halving. The election is a few months away. There's a lot of positives in the space, so added to some risk a couple days ago. It sounds like a nice optimistic target. I think it's going to be back-end loaded. I think that the advisors are still sharpening their pencils on Bitcoin, and maybe need just a little more of like red wave election momentum or even the event in order to get very aggressive. So I think 15 billion would be a good number, a very good number. I don't think that much is required to move the price substantially, though, of ETH, the asset, because it's much less liquid than BTC. There's even less inflation. So I think even like 5 billion in flows could cause a 40 to 50% rally.
Rational Root shares his views on the importance of education in the crypto space. He believes that convincing traditional finance players about the value of Bitcoin in a portfolio next to FANG stocks is crucial. He highlights the potential of open-source apps and decentralized finance to drive further adoption and innovation in the crypto space.
Yeah, so in this chart, we actually see the total holdings of Bitcoin. So we went from the launch from 600,000 to around 850,000 Bitcoin that are now on the balance sheet of these ETFs, or the combined holdings of all these ETFs. And so if you count also the global ETFs, like the Canadians, the Brazilian ETF, or some of the European ETPs, you get to around 1 million coins that are now in custody of these ETFs. So that is quite substantial. And it's, of course, a bit of a honeypot because a lot of those coins are at Coinbase custody. And so that remains a bit of a risk. What I hope for, and what I've also advocated for in the panel in Prague, was that I hope we see these ETFs come with also custody solutions at some point. We have had that actually with gold ETFs in the past. And so it is possible. It's definitely possible with Bitcoin. We could have like these multi-sig custody solutions for these ETFs. And it could be even like a competitive advantage, right, over other ETFs. And so since we have some crypto-focused ETFs like Bitwise, it wouldn't be strange to think that they come with these kind of solutions, tools to also get a competitive advantage over the other ETFs.
Yeah, we've always tried to be a leader on fees, and Jan van Eck has said publicly that he regretted not being more aggressive when the Bitcoin spot ETFs came to market. So we're gonna, we're putting our foot on the gasoline here and offering the product free, and we're going to make it up on volume, decentralized finance volume, meaning we're going to put significant amount of our own money into this product, and to the extent that the ETH ETF catalyzes, more interest in the asset, and there's more activity on DEXs, more use cases for this open source software. That'll mean more gas fees. ETH the asset will go up, and we'll make money. So it's still so early to this asset class that the main hurdle is just education, convincing TradFi why this deserves a piece in a portfolio next to the FANG stocks. And I think we put out some research on ETH as an open source app store, and I think that theme is going to become more and more prominent over the next number of quarters and years. Just this week, the European Union Commission levying large fines on Apple for not opening up their app store. You have Tencent, which is China's largest gaming company. They've got this hit new game, Dungeon and Fighter Mobile. It's earned $300 million this month, and they removed it from Android app stores because in China, the Android app stores take 50%, and Tencent Dungeon and Fighter Mobile is going direct. So users are getting primed for these app store alternatives. I still think the Solana Saga Phone franchise may be underrated as a distribution engine for open source apps.
He also discusses the potential of Solana's Saga Phone franchise as an underrated distribution engine for open source apps. With growing regulatory pressure on traditional app stores, he sees an opportunity for decentralized alternatives to gain traction. Please like and subscribe my channel.